Okay, good afternoon. Thank you for joining our press conference ahead of the midweek game against Chelsea. Those joining on the online feed, please use the raise hand function to ask questions. We will start in the room with Sam.
Hi Robert, how are you?
Hi, I'm fine, thank you.
In terms of this season at Spurs, so 6th place finish, your first year in charge and a FA Cup final, how would you personally reflect on what's happened this season?
I mean, result-wise, that's good. I mean, they were fighting about relegation last year, and we have turned it around. We top 6 is a good first step with that. Finally, in the FA Cup is a big step for us, so that's really good. And also the identity, how we play, how we run the business is also feeling like we are doing the right stuff. So it's been a good first year for me and for the team and for the club.
Yeah, and obviously it all happened this weekend, and in terms of lifting the morale of the players, how have you gone about sort of dealing with perhaps they may be a bit disheartened after what's happened, but I suppose from your side of things you want to reflect on the positives this season?
Yeah, I mean, you should be down when you lose a final. You should be feeling those feelings we felt. And they had a day off to work with that. But today everybody was back and we had a good meeting in the morning with a lot of energy and more looking into the whole process and not only that game. And then you realize like we are a really good team that work together and we can do good stuff. And we already now are at this stage. So today was a really good day and we had a good training and we made sure we have a good game plan for Chelsea tomorrow. And I think all the players that trained was back at it. So it was no problem to motivate them. They are very much professional enough to make sure we have 2 good games before we go on the break.
And following up on that question, this week is Mental Health Awareness Week. How important do you think mental health is to the performance of players, not only in football but in other sports as well, and the priority, I guess, of looking after the well-being of athletes?
I mean, I think it's a very important subject and also for people all around the world in different areas. And I think you shouldn't be afraid to speak about that and make sure you can speak about that. I think sometimes you can actually go and get help before you are actually sick to proactively do that. And sometimes you're going to have that support as well. We have hired a sports psychologist full-time working with us. I'm very much interested in this area as well. And I'm always want to speak about feelings and good and bad stuff and make sure we have an open climate for that. So it's very much important to speak about it because you have a lot of people around the world that need to speak about it. And I think that's the best way to do it.
Yeah, that's brilliant. And looking forward to the game against Chelsea. Obviously, it's one of Emma Hayes' last games in charge of Chelsea. In terms of her impact on women's football in England and in general, I guess, is there anything you've identified from her coaching strategy and the way that she operates that you look at and go, I can actually implement that into what I do at Tottenham?
I think she's a big role model for women's football and the growth of it. And I think me coming into women's football just a few years ago, I can be inspired by what she have done, and she have done the hard work from basically the semi-professional level all the way up here. And she's making sure she take every duel and every discussion to make sure that the female athletes get what they deserve. So I'm very impressed with what she have done, what she's doing, how she seems to be a very clever person and a coach. So, I mean, I try to find my own way, but of course I can be inspired of others, and I think she's definitely a role model in that area.
And obviously it's a London derby coming up, and off the back of that FA Cup final, do you expect a lot of those fans that went to that game, interested in that game, I guess the viewership to carry on to this game and influence the numbers of women's sport, making it grow even more?
Yeah, I think those big games we had this year is a good stuff to make sure we bring more fans to our games, and I think we had a really good fan base at Wembley. It was most amazing I've been with, and it was so nice to see that. And I'm not sure you're going to see it directly the first games now, but I can guarantee that you're going to see it for the future because we are growing something together with the fans, and I can guarantee that it's just going to keep going because we can feel their love and we really appreciate how they help us, support us, even if we lose. So I can definitely see them growing with us, and hopefully we have a good fan base on Wednesday and then on Saturday before we go on the break.
And finally, how important is carrying on that momentum? You're on a bit of an unbeaten run in the league at the moment, so carrying that on until the end of the season, then looking forward to next season, how important is it that you maintain that unbeaten streak in the league?
I think every game is important to us, especially against the top teams, because we want to learn how to play good football against the top teams and see if we can close that gap. And I think we had a really good game against Chelsea in the first game of the season, and now it's the last game of the season. So it's going to be fun to see how can we compete against them, because when they have a good day, they are probably one of the top 4 teams in the world. So obviously we want to try to compete and make sure we try to go for the win. But we also need to accept that sometimes perhaps we need to defend as well. But it's going to be a very fun game to play, and hopefully we can get a good result and a performance.
Brilliant. Thanks so much, Robert.
Cheers.
Thank you. Move to questions on the online feed, starting with Dan.
Hi Robert, hope you're well. I can imagine that kind of the weekend was kind of, mentally and physically tough on the players. Obviously, you're going into a game against Chelsea, who've had, 9-10 days off, obviously 8-0 last time out. So, how difficult is it going to be to kind of get the players ready for the kind of toughest test, if you like, against Chelsea?
I mean, in one way, it's good that we get this game so close in front of the other game, because sometimes you want to play direct and see if you can get back on the track. So I think that's the easy part, and it's Chelsea home, which is a big game for us. Then mentally and physically, of course, it's not too much to recover to go to this game, and they have had probably a quite long training week and good, for them. But we are trained to play 2 games a week, and we should be able to do it. And hopefully we can find new energy tomorrow and make sure we do a good performance, because and we have a big squad, so we can also find ways during the game to make sure we have good energy in the legs and so on. So hopefully we can use the loss we have this weekend to make sure we can actually get some even more energy to go and beat Chelsea tomorrow.
Do you feel that you might need to rotate the squad a little bit? Obviously, give some players who maybe didn't play as much of a part at Wembley, some game time, particularly, as you say, with 2-3 games in a week?
Not really. I think we are pretty much trained to play 2 games a week. So if you don't have any injuries or small problems, I don't need to rotate just because it sounds good. I'm going to pick the best 11 to make sure we have a good starting 11 to compete against Chelsea, and I'm going to make sure we have a few options on the bench to know what we can do with those players. But I'm not really a big fan of just rotating just because it could be a good thing to do. We need to make sure we get the best possible starting 11 to compete with Chelsea, because, like I said, they are pretty much top 4 in the world, so we need to make sure we have a good plan for that.
And just finally, obviously, off the back of that fantastic support of the weekend, you've got 2 home games now. Big derby at the big, the main stadium at the weekend. How good an opportunity is this to kind of, carry on that fan support, up until the end of the season?
I mean, I think you saw the power of Tottenham Hotspur's fans this weekend with coming there, and we hear them, we saw them, they were everywhere, and it was supporting us all the way. So I think, I'm not sure how many will come tomorrow and on Saturday, but I definitely feel like we're growing together, and I think if we can have 2 good games after this final as well, we're going to have the greatest first season we could have had, I would say. And the main thing here is actually to grow together with the fans, and I think we're showing that. We want to win titles, we want to compete, and we want to play good football, but for me it's actually as important to bring the fans to the stadium and make sure we play at the big stages. So I think that's probably the thing I'm the most proud of this year, that we grow with the fans, and they give us the love and we give them the love, and I just feel like this is for real, and hopefully we have 2 good games now together, and then we take a good vacation, and then we go from there.
That's great. Thanks, Robert. Best of luck. Thank you.
Cheers.
Going to Tom.
I think you muted, Tom. Sorry.
Oh, Tom, we haven't got your audio. If you want to WhatsApp me your question, we'll get that. So for now, we'll go to Phil.
Hello. I just want to do a quick team news check. I know you said they're about probably not rotating, but are there any sort of fresh injury concerns or anything that came out of the match at the weekend, or is it pretty much the same squad to go?
Now Becky got a knock in that duel in the first half, so she cannot play tomorrow. But she will hopefully be training later this week, but she will not be in the squad tomorrow. And then Molly was sick this morning, so she's probably not in the squad either. So, but otherwise everybody's ready to go.
Okay, and you said about when you played Chelsea earlier this season, and could possibly take some encouragement for that. I also wondered if you might take encouragement from the way that Liverpool beat Chelsea. That was only a couple of weeks ago. Similar pressure on Chelsea on that occasion, and they managed to defeat them. So is that an encouraging sign for you guys?
Yeah, I think you can be inspired of other teams, how they find ways to beat the top teams, because it happens a few times this year. I mean, obviously Liverpool scored 3 goals on corner kicks, which is quite impressive. And of course we look into that and what we can use that kind of info for. But on the other hand, we need to do our stuff. We need to do what we are good at, and that's what we're going to try to do. And we know how we can hurt them, but we also know that it's a very good team we're going to play against. So we need to be very good to defend as well. And hopefully we have those days where we can actually play our football and score a few really nice goals, and that's what we're going for.
Great, cheers.
Cheers.
Okay, thank you. And that has covered Tom's question as well. We'll go to Ellie.
Hi Robert, hope you're well. Just a quick one. Jess Now's obviously getting her first senior England call-up today. Just wondering, have you spoken to her about it? How pleased is she and how pleased are you for her?
No, I'm very happy for that. I spoke to Serena yesterday, so I knew about it a little bit before, and I was so happy when she told me that she's going to be in the training squad and the rest of it. So, and then when Jess came this morning, I was just seeing that she was very, very proud. But I mean, I think she's developed so much this year, and she is one of the young talents in this country that have an X factor that you need in your national team. So I'm happy for her, but she deserves it because she worked so hard for a long time to reach this point, and I think she's having the future for herself as well. So I think it's just a matter of time before she actually starts playing for that national team as well, because the steps she has taken this year is very impressive.
And obviously Grace Clinton back in the England squad as well. There's been a few rumours this week that obviously as soon as the transfer window opens, that's going to be one of the first tasks on your list to try and get her in permanently. Is that something I imagine you're keen to make happen? I don't know how much you can say about it, but is that a priority for you?
I mean, when we look at the next transfer window, we have a good plan what kind of players we need and who we want to go for. So we have a good plan and we're prepared everything for that, but we're going to make sure we complete the season before we go into that. So right now she's our player for 2 more games, so I'm going to enjoy those 2 games and then we take it from there.
And just a last one on tomorrow's game. I know whilst it won't have any kind of bearing on your position in the league, you've obviously got that 6th place secured, but Spurs have got a huge chance to have a big say in the title race, and obviously you're going to be focused on yourself and not on Chelsea, but do you see it as kind of, in a way, the perfect game to bounce back from that? I think the final defeat to kind of show that Spurs can have their say and affect the teams at the top of the table?
Yeah, I mean, we are a professional team and we're always going to compete for every game. We're not going to make sure we don't do that. But for me, it's a part of the journey is to compete against the top teams in the league, because that's the teams we want to compete with. So when we get a chance to play against Chelsea and we actually can play without any pressure in one way, because we already know where we're going to end up in the table, that makes me perhaps even more brave to go the way we want to play. But we of course want to win this game. We want to make sure we compete and do everything we can. So I like that this game comes now. I like that I don't like it's no pressure, because I want to make sure we can go higher in the table when we play games. But on the other hand, we can use this game like you said, so we can bounce back. Hopefully we can play some really good football and make sure we finish this year with a good way. And no matter what though, if we lose this one and the last one or win these 2, when we summarize the whole season, I know that we're going to be quite happy with what we have done, and we know what to do for the next season and so on. So it's a good place to be at, because we have done great and we have 2 more chances to be even more great, and then we close this year and make sure we do a better year next year.
Okay, thank you. Good luck.
Cheers.
Thanks, Ellie. And we'll go to Chris.
Hi, Robert. Hope you're well. Obviously, you've had a few days to reflect since the FA Cup final defeat. I just simply wanted to ask, how are you, and how are the players, and how has the mood been?
I mean, I was, of course, very down after the game, I must say. We had a get-together directly afterwards, which was nice, because then we could speak a little bit, and everybody was actually meeting with family and friends. And for me, it's like normally after a game, and especially when I lose, I don't really want to speak to anyone, but it was actually quite nice to speak aloud with a lot of people, and the fans was around us as well, and it was really, really nice to see how they were, encouraging us and just supporting us after that loss. So I think that showed the power of this club, and that helped me to make sure that the day after I was quite, not happy, that's the wrong word, but I was very impressed and inspired by them. So then it's more like, I just feel now that this is so cool to be here and work with this club, and the potential is so high. So you can use this loss in a good way, and I think we're doing that. The whole squad, we feel like we've done something really amazing this year, and we also know that we're going to be even better next year. So it's like it was a tough loss, but it's also you need losses when you're going to do a journey as well. So we're going to learn from this.
Lastly, when you took the job in the summer and you planned ahead for this season, of course, you would finish 6th in the WSL table, got to the FA Cup final. Are you where you thought this team would be at this stage of the season, or are you further off?
I'm very positive-minded, and I always have a strong belief in what I'm doing. But I'm also realistic. So when I saw what they were doing last year, when I saw how many players who were not staying in this squad, how we tried to find new players to fit in the way we want to play, how we were trying to make sure we play a certain style, which means that we don't really need to focus on the results so much. So no, I didn't really expect us to be top 6 and go to the final, because I knew I needed to take this first year to build an identity, to make sure we look like Tottenham Hotspur and play the Spurs way. So I thought perhaps I needed to sit here and be finishing 9th again, but telling you about the game model and how we play and the identity. So, but the players has been so great. They learn so quick, and they're buying so much that you try to do, and that helps me a lot. So, and the stuff around me is even better than I expected. So it's been easier for me to do what I want to do, and so that's why it's really cool to see where we are right now. And also, like, imagine now when we're going to start from this ground next year and make sure we keep going and keep developing. And then you see the potential we spoke about before I signed. It's there, and you saw the game against Man United now with the board members where they're supporting us, and we are one club, and we are a strong club, and we're a good club. So we're gonna keep pushing.
Best of luck. Thank you, Robert.
Cheers.
Okay, thank you very much, everybody.